Despite the corona pandemic and its measures, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, His Highness Sheikh Mohamed Bin Zayed, wanted to be informed and reassured about the conditions of the Afghan families who were hosted in the Emirates Humanitarian City. During the inspection visit that carried many humanitarian meanings, His Highness was briefed on the city's facilities and benefits and the integrated services that provided to Afghan families in a way that guarantees their comfort. His Highness listened to all the needs and requirements that the city provides and also inspected the workflow at the departure site for groups of people coming from Afghanistan who will go to the United States and other countries. He heard from American officials about the processes of organizing this departure. MBZ directed to provide all forms of support and assistance to the Emirates guests to provide them with means of comfort to ensure the preservation of their human dignity. His Highness also ordered the provision of material assistance to all individuals to help them on their next trip. The visit confirmed that the leaders of the UAE believes in actions and work. This is what prompted the Afghan people to demand the UAE to operate Kabul airport and reject any Qatari or Turkish interference in this regard. Let's watch now the CNN report regarding this.
Plane already. I got on plane myself, but they were not there.
Noor and his wife were originally airlifted to Doha in Qatar, while his two children made it here to Abu Dhabi's humanitarian city, a temporary haven for many Afghans who have fled their country. Well, a total of nearly 9,000 Afghans have been hosted by the UAE, many of whom have been housed here at Emirates Humanitarian City. And it's groups like these that are being processed on a daily basis, hoping that they will move on from here very quickly to the United States. Among them, thousands of women and children, including baby Sarah, born here in Abu Dhabi just days after her exhausted family arrived. Her father, Abdul Sabah, says he is grateful for all the support.
Yeah, I am so appreciate Dubai people because everything is good for us. Facilities better for us than Afghanistan. Everything is good.
Crown Prince Mohamed Bin Zayed has pledged that at-risk families, especially women and children, will be provided with care and social support while on UAE soil. Most Afghans here, though, just desperate to continue their journey. Until a couple of weeks ago, Fahad was an interpreter for US-led coalition forces in Afghanistan.
For me, it's really very difficult to go back in Afghanistan because I worked more than 13 years with the US government. I don't want to go back there unless we have a perfect security and we feel safe ourselves.
So there are flights every day to the United States. You are just hoping you get on one of those flights very soon.
We hope so. Yeah. We hope.
Noor too hopes to move on quickly. In the shade and safety of Humanitarian City, he isn't dwelling on what happened that day at Kabul airport. Happy only that he is back with his kids, relieved to have left the horrors of Afghanistan behind.
As always, the United Arab Emirates is in the forefront of helping other nations and their people. And as the tragedy of Afghanistan continues, scores of refugees are fleeing this country in search of a shelter. Hence, the Emirates has emerged as the first country to accept refugees from Afghanistan. His Highness Mohamed Bin Zayed has submitted an initiative to welcome Afghanistan's refugees. The Emirates has pledged the provision of full care to all Afghan refugees. Special care was given to women and children. It is important to mention that the UAE does not discriminate against any refugees who settle in its land. This is another dimension of the humanitarian assistance diplomacy of the Emirates. The Afghan people are fully cognizant of the kindness and generosity of the Emirates and its people. They also appreciate a great deal the wisdom of Sheikh Mohammed Bin Zayed, They acknowledge his courage and statesmanship in offering protection to refugees from all over the world. The great political stability of the United Arab Emirates will help the Afghan refugees live peacefully on a new soil. The marvelous economic progress of the UAE will grant these Afghani refugees promising economic opportunities. The whole world should salute the Emirates for its noble deeds helping the refugees from Afghanistan and from all over the world. On the other hand, while there are countries that are manipulating the Afghan crisis for their own business or own advantage, the UAE is steadfast in shielding these Afghan refugees from any competing political faction in their mother country. This is why the whole world gives much credibility to any announcement by the Emirates that they are sincere and honest about rescuing the lives and the future of all refugees. Already the World Health Organization has stated that 85% of the global assurance contribute to fight the coronavirus was tendered by the United Arab Emirates. Needless to say, world leaders are thankful for Sheikh Mohamed Bin Zayed for his attitudes and kind actions to lend support to the arriving Afghan refugees coming to his nation. Needless to say, these brave actions are only the continuation of the series of benevolent steps that United Arab Emirates has been assuming, and for a long time. In conclusion, I want to say that the United Arab Emirates is the only nation in the world where refugees do not live in tents or squalid areas. The Afghan refugees will never be treated as foreigners while living in the Emirates. The UAE is the sole country on the world where the tradition of hosting, especially refugees, do not compromise its nation security's standing. As a European Union reporter, a correspondent said and wrote, the history of the UAE has been characterized by solidarity with the struggling countries, and I say indeed the UAE is ranked as a top foreign aid donor by all global observers. Since the foundation of the country in 1971, the UAE has donated more than $87 billion to promote humanitarian development, especially in Afghanistan. Since 2003, shortly after the US entered the country, the UAE was there through the Red Crescent and through its armed forces, providing significant humanitarian contribution, and the UAE Armed Force, guided by the principle of helping brotherly people and providing safety and stability, have been extending their helping hands to Afghanistan for several years. This is my conclusion and this is my report. Hope you will like it, and thank you for your comments.